The tornado that killed 7 children at the Plaza Towers Elementary School in Moore and last December's deadly shooting rampage at a school in Connecticut have intensified the focus on school safety and security. As lawmakers consider ways to provide a safe haven for students, emergency planners are laying the groundwork for improved procedures and facilities.
We need shelters in every Oklahoma school.
Mickey Davis never imagined when she dropped off her 8-year-old son Kyle Davis at Plaza Towers School in Moore May 20th, it would be the last time she would see him alive. In the aftermath of the tornado, Davis says she'll do whatever it takes to help get storm shelters in all Oklahoma schools.
I don't want any other parent to have to go through what I've had to go through. And I don't want no other parent to have to say their final goodbyes as they leave their kids for school.
The tragedy at Plaza Towers spurred State Representative Joe Dorman to request an interim study to examine the issues of school safety and security.
Well, after what we saw on May 20th with the tornadoes that hit our state and then the subsequent tornadoes over the next week, we realized Oklahoma really is unprepared and unprotected on many levels.
Experts called to testify before the legislative panel agree Oklahoma is at risk from violent weather, although quantifying that risk is difficult. Oklahoma Climatological Survey Director Dr. Kevin Claesel says Oklahoma gets an average of 55 tornadoes a year, but that number is largely meaningless.
Tornadoes are highly variable in Oklahoma. We've had as few as a couple of dozen in any given year, all the way out to 145 in a year. So the number of tornadoes in Oklahoma depends on the weather patterns each individual spring. I can guarantee you that Oklahoma will have tornadoes next spring. That I'm 100% confident about. We've never had a year remotely close to zero numbers of tornadoes.
Based on data from 1982 to 2011, Oklahoma is squarely in the bullseye for tornadoes, especially during May. The highest number of tornadoes strike between the hours of 5 and 7 p.m., after the school day has ended. But Claesel says because storms typically travel from west to east, the time of greatest threat varies for different parts of the state.
If you look at the state as a whole, it's only about 9% of tornadoes that occur during the school day. But if you look at the Oklahoma City metropolitan area, the number is about twice that. It's more like 18% that occur in the Oklahoma City metropolitan area during the school day.
Representative Dorman commissioned a statewide survey of public schools to determine how many had a shelter for students.
The numbers came back surprising. Over 500,000 students and teachers are unprotected in Oklahoma schools right now. There is no tornado shelter space at all for them.
Only 271 schools in the state have a storm shelter that is built to FEMA specifications, and more than 1,100 schools have no shelter of any kind. Brian Orr with the architectural and engineering firm Safe Design Group insists school safe rooms are affordable, especially if built during new construction to serve a dual purpose.
They can be an everyday building. They can be a gymnasium. They can be a performing arts center. They can be a classroom. They don't have to be below ground. They can be facilities that are used every day.
Safe Design Group, which helped construct safe rooms in Joplin, Missouri after a deadly tornado 2 years ago, estimates the cost of constructing safe rooms for all Oklahoma schools would range from $740 to $880 million. State Emergency Management Director Albert Ashwood says the next step in protecting students and teachers is determining what resources are available to schools.
We don't have a real good baseline, so what we're trying to do is establish assessment teams that can go out and look at different aspects of each school, not just where a shelter could be used or where a retrofit could be used, but also find out if we have one shelter that can fit 2 school buildings, that type of thing. So we need a real good baseline before we figure out how we can go forward. And it won't be just safe rooms. It will be looking at, active shooter type scenarios and what they might be looking at there. From an emergency management standpoint, do you have procedures in place? Do you have plans?
Begg School Superintendent Cindy Swearingen stressed to the panel the importance of having emergency procedures in place and making sure those responsible for carrying out the plan are aware of all its details.
Do a walkthrough. Your school personnel need to do the walkthrough, because if you don't know where the shutoff to the electricity is, to the water shutoffs are, and something happens and the responders come and ask you where that information is, I don't know, you're just wasting time.
I certainly feel each school should have those disaster plans put in place. Certainly would like to see something in place where they have those. but I'm not confident that that's the end-all, be-all answer. I think we need to provide the funding to help these schools prepare themselves for every contingency possible that we can anticipate.
A petition drive for a ballot measure that would provide funding for school storm shelters through a $500 million bond package is underway, but there is opposition to using a statewide bond issue to pay for shelters. The proposed state question is also the focus of a legal battle. Supporters filed a challenge after Attorney General Scott Pruitt rewrote the ballot title, contending Pruitt's language is biased against the proposal. The Oklahoma Supreme Court has set oral arguments in the case for December 18th.